communications earlier referred to the song Abide With Me. And I thought it would be fitting. Since he concluded, I will start by quoting what I thought had been an appropriate thought for us today. And as I mentioned, throughout all the changing scenes of life, in trouble and in joy, the praises of my God I shall still, my heart and tongue employ. There's a second voice that speaks to those who are in distress and who could be comforted by the examples we set. That's in the second verse. I'll probably refer to that later on in my contribution. Mr. Speaker, today is, we talk about the changing scenes of life, and we think about the landscape of the Bahamas and all of what I call those seminal moments that led to where we are today. I must mark that today is the 55th anniversary of Black Tuesday. That fateful day when brave warriors, courageous souls, who then were fighting another kind of virus, malicious gerrymandering of electoral boundaries, and those who are fighting for social justice in our country, led by Sir Lyndon Tinling, then Lyndon Tinling, who threw the mace out of that window. And that is a seminal moment that led to where we are today. And is a moment in history that perhaps was one of the keys to open the lock of the door for us to be here where we are today. As Bahamians of African descent. Let's start, I could go back to some of the other seminal moments, like out of Cat Island, we had a man called Black Vic, out of Port Howe. Yeah, we could go to Akron and speak about Little Cape or Black Cape. We could go into Zuma for Pompeii. We could, then there's the Burma Road riots, the suffragette movement. What is important, Speaker? The citizen movement and committee, the Citizens Committee, that was formed in 1950 with Max Thompson, that group, with Nuri and that group of persons who were protesting the fact that the government of the day refused to allow the showing of Sidney Poitier's first major movie. And in fact, it was the first major part played in a major movie by a black man. No Way Out was that movie. And I must confess, I saw it for the first time last week, thanks to the shutdown. I was scurrying through a channel trying to try something to watch, and that was on. I was able to watch that movie. But since that's the formation of that and that protest, and of course it led to the strike and all that. But I stand to reflect on that moment today and to thank those courageous souls who stood against the oligarchy of that day to fight against the pernicious regime that then was in place. And I think it's that same indomitable spirit that we have. And if we go to engage that, we will defeat this virus of a battle that we now have. And so I stand to to commend and pay tribute to those brave soldiers of that day that paved the way on this day 55 years ago to provide that key to the lock to allow us as African Americans to be where we are here today. And the hymn. Huh? The hymn is African, oh, yeah. African Bahamians. The Bahamians of African descent. Huh? So, sorry, that's what I said? I didn't say African American, I talk about Bahamians of African descent. And so I am proud to pay tribute to them today. And I think we all should do that today. Mr. Speaker, we are heading into the 6th week of curfews, lockdowns due to this COVID-19 dilemma. Like many Bahamians, I've been looking for signs that we are making positive progress in the fight against this viral threat. I heard the update by the Prime Minister, and I heard also the update by the member for Elizabeth, the Minister of Health. And I did not want to refer to Dr. Davis' academic sort of assessment of where we are and the modeling to which the Prime Minister referred to, because I think he too recognized in his assessment and what I call it the academic curve and assessment that he was engaged in, that is as good as the information that was provided. And the question really is, are we winning or losing this battle? And if you, in that same report, what Dr. Davis points out to, and as the member for Elizabeth confirmed, we are having increases in the spread since the lockdown. There have been increases in the death. And the same Dr. Davis measures, I wouldn't say our success, and I wouldn't say the successes of other countries, but in his modeling, he points out that the deaths in our jurisdiction compared to, say, Trinidad, to which the member Elizabeth alluded to, we have 3 times as much death. He points it out in his report. We are twice the amount of deaths when he looks at what is happening in Barbados and Jamaica. He also points out that in the 5th week, the increases in cases is up 17%. It's all in his report. If any of you didn't have it, I have a copy I could share it with you. Right? So we are continuing to see an increase both in cases and deaths, despite the drastic measures we have asked our people to take. So as we consider this extension, I think the government has no higher obligation than to level with us about how things stand today, how they expect the next weeks and months to unfold, and when people can expect some light at the end of this tunnel. I don't know that we've gotten that yet. What what the member for Elizabeth has said, which I embrace. And in fact, it is one of the things that Angela Merkel, the Chancellor of Germany, who was talking about the successes that they were achieving and what tools that she was using to do so. The first, she had 3 T's. Truth, testing, tracing. And so I'm heartened by the fact that the member who just said recognized this. And I'm heartened by the fact that he was open to say, when he realized that the message I got is the challenge is we don't have sufficient testing kits. And we are challenged by the testing kits. And I also sense that there is some challenge with the kits that were on hand, because he indicated that there was a need to validate some of those kits, which suggests to me that there may have been some challenge. Now, if it were us, and what I would recommend, once you know where these kits are, order them, or pick them up. Because yes, there is a challenge with the chain of delivery of items. And if it goes to the United States, you're not sure whether you'll get it. But there may be some challenge. And that's a global challenge, not just us. We are competing. We have friends, man. You have friends who like to get one of their jets and fly to where the testings are and pick it up, man. No, okay, no, I'm suggesting that I won't post that. We're in a crisis. We're in a crisis. We've done it before. Right? Go and get it. Right? So just I'm saying, Mr. Speaker. And so, Mr. Speaker, let me be clear. We want this government to manage this crisis effectively and for our country to succeed in this war against this invisible enemy, COVID-19. We want success. My colleagues join me in this. We are one nation. On this part, we don't just speak it, we demonstrate it. All of our families and friends and communities are under threat. I have mourned friends, together with many of my colleagues in the FNM. Our grief is something we share. One of the last of the 2 victims was my second cousin, my first cousin's son. No, Valenius is our friend. Yes. My close cousin. We are close. Well, because I care about us being successful that I offer some of these thoughts and concerns today. Lives are on hold, Mr. Speaker. People's ability to earn a living is on hold. Things are falling apart for many of our people. No one should pretend that another week of lockdowns would somehow rid us of this virus. Nor should the public, nearly all of whom are complying with the newest restrictions, be chastised and blamed for the continued spread. The truth is that is owed to our people is that our country still lacks a really coherent strategy for mass testing. And as I said, the minister alluded to that a while ago, and there has to be an answer for that, which is a crucial component for combating the spread of the virus. And we understand, because the whole world is now competing for the same things that we need, which does a number of things. It makes it scarce, and the prices go up. We talk about gouging by our vendors here in the Bahamas. But you can hear about the gouging for these resources that's required to fight this, in prices to fight this. So we understand, but we have to be more proactive. Since we know that the virus can be spread, even by people who have no symptoms, we need testing to include them in order to stop the virus in its tracks. See, one of my friends was sick, terribly sick, and the symptoms was the virus symptoms, which is akin to the flu symptoms and the virus. And terribly sick. He recovered. His wife, unfortunately, got it. So after he had it, then he was tested to find out that he had it. His wife had it. And then again, there was a lot of breakdown in that as well. But I would not go there because that's the district. And I'm sure I will speak to the minister about that. And we could speak to how that could be addressed at some point in time. It's a case out of Bimini, not a case out of Bimini. We need to constantly reevaluate protocols for who gets tested and how often. What percentage of the population does the government plan to test? And when will that capacity be in place? We need new resources and venues for isolating positive cases. We need additional personnel for contact tracing. And we need to be sure that our clinics and hospitals are ready for any surge in cases. Bahamians have the right to ask their government to plan for more than a week or two at a time. You know, I don't think we're asking for perfection. We're not asking for perfection. We're not asking for the government to predict a far-off future. But people have a right to expect the transparency and intelligence standards. That is especially the case when it comes to a plan to reopen our economy and to help people and businesses to begin to recover. 6 weeks in, the government's response continues to be characterized primarily by apparent short-term thinking, reactive measures, and a lack of careful planning. I'll just give you an example, so that, let's say I'm picking. Just look no further than the pandemonium that was unleashed at local grocery stores when they announced the alphabetical list for shopping. Or consider the gridlock, the roadblocks on the streets when the Prime Minister indicated that we should be carrying and we should be required to produce government-issued identification. Even the police is stopping the drivers. They say, well, I don't know why I'm doing this, but I have to see it. So something, that is what's happening now. So we could think about the questionable methodology used, again, this is the question, the methodology used to determine which businesses are deemed essential and which aren't, prompting many questions to whether we are allowing special interests to influence key decision makers in the middle of a global crisis. Let me give you an example. I know convenience stores, they sell in groceries, but they are not allowed to open. They want to know why. The vendors on Arawaki who have takeout business, they still want to know why they can't be selling their food as a takeout business. That's the point I'm trying to make. And, Mr. Speaker, what I would like to remind us all of, let me remind us of one thing. All businesses are essential to the workers who rely on those jobs to feed their families. We have to remember that. The very least people can expect is to have confidence that these decisions are made carefully, without special favor, and with a full understanding of the consequences. As we move forward, it is important to note that the same social distancing policies that businesses such as Kelly's or Quality Home Center are using to safely operate during this pandemic can also be used by other businesses. The process of allowing businesses to open their doors must be rolled out in a practical but fair manner. We are seeing the uneven results of reactive piecemeal policymaking in the overly Nassau-centric approach to fighting the virus. While Bimini and Grand Bahama have been relatively neglected, despite having confirmed cases and deaths. I'll speak to the minister about that in more detail. See, throughout the months of March and April, I warned that the initially announced measures were hastily implemented and did not adequately take into account the multifaceted issues that are arising due to both the virus and the economic fallout. There's no balance, seemingly no balance. And for example, the Family Islands, we still have not addressed the Family Islands properly. Why can't the beaches in the Family Islands at least be used for recreation, for swimming? Just swimming, or exercise, sorry. I had a young man who went exercising in El Salvador. He's exercising. He told the police he didn't have. And then the other challenge with the Family Islands is that they are not, the measures cannot all be found in one document. And they'll be changing. And so a lot of the first residents of the Family Islands are not fully aware of all because of the communication channels. And so enforcement agents in these islands ought to be given a bit more discretion. They ought to warn them first, for example, because he did not know that he could not be exercising. He told him, I'm exercising for an hour. But he was still locked up. He's on bail. That's go to court. So that's why I say, yeah, that's what's happening. I sent a note to you about it and to the Attorney General. And perhaps the Prime Minister, you say, it's not that I'd like to hear your voice, but at least in this time, take the call. Answer me. Yeah, answer me. Answer me. We talk about being unified. I keep telling you I'm here to help. But you got to make me feel like you want help, that you want my help. Because I called him. I'll be asking, right? Now, as the government seems to be relaxing some of its measures because of these same practical issues, a comprehensive plan is needed to keep our people safe. And these measures must be implemented very soon. The government must work to cut through the red tape and bureaucracy, produce faster results during this crucial time. We talk about leveraging technology to facilitate more effective government processes, and yet there are still widespread complaints about long delays and people being given the casual runaround when dealing with government services. Delays during times like these can be devastating to people who are struggling to stay afloat. These curfews and lockdowns are not being experienced in the same way by everyone. For many, the lockdowns themselves represent yet another threat to their health and security. Recent reports, for example, from the Crisis Center have noted an uptick in domestic abuse cases. Other media reports have mentioned robbery sprees taking place in some communities, gated communities in the province. As economic and social pressure continue to increase, conditions will not get better on these fronts. Men and women who live over the hill have complained about being harassed and even detained despite having legitimate reasons to be on the road. Such incidents may be a consequence of the harmful effects of the curfew and lockdown on persons working longer hours and undertaking tasks for which they are not adequately trained. It is time to explore and address the negative emotional impact these measures are having on our people, including the police, defense force, and our first responders, so that we may avoid any further build-up of tension and potential fallout in the form of domestic abuse. In other instances, Mr. Speaker, the homeless, mentally ill, are being dragged before the courts in handcuffs, and they're being severely penalized. Others have been targeted with fines that seem grossly disproportionate to the offenses they're being charged with. Mr. Speaker, we don't share the view that these people ought to be so severely, that the offense for which they're being charged and the punishment is disproportionate. And these are poor people from the inner city. You know, when you're charging a homeless man $800, you expect him to get that money from. We do not agree with the harshness of treatment. So I call on the government to renew its focus on addressing the social and economic forces that are impacting everyday men and women whose personal budgets have been stretched paper thin. This requires strengthening the social safety net, revisiting policing strategies, following through on plans for food banks and feeding networks, and doing all we can as a country to protect our at-risk population. The government must show that it will address any inequities and injustices quickly. Mr. Speaker, given that civil liberties have been suspended, Parliament must be convened on a weekly basis, or at the very least every 10 days, to provide checks and balances on proposed policies. It is through this scrutiny that we will give voice to the challenges faced by our people and help to ease their pain. The Bahamian people are hurting, Mr. Speaker. They are worried that temporary layoffs will become permanent. They are afraid that the same government that has asked business owners to have a heart may not have a heart of its own. They want some reassurance that the government has their back. The country is bracing for a severe economic decline. The Bahamian people need more than strict lockdowns and stern press conferences to survive. Our people want to see a plan for widespread testing. They want to see new protections for healthcare workers. They want to see a comprehensive recovery and reopening strategy. Our people also want to know how the government will protect the public even as the economy reopens, especially those at highest risk, like the elderly, people with high blood pressure and diabetes. Where is the plan for our people? Essential workers are on the front line, risking their lives to ensure that our country continues to function throughout this period. While it is important to honor and applaud them for their work, it is even more important to protect them. Too many of our medical personnel are falling ill. We must pull out all stops to immediately prioritize their safety. There should be no expense spared to ensure that our frontline fighters are safe in this battle. They are citizens, including students who are stuck in foreign countries, and our government has slammed the door in their face. I'm happy to hear the Prime Minister today indicate that arrangements will now be being made to bring them home, because many of them were alone and running out of money, and we were leaving them for foreigners to take care of them. So I'm happy to hear that announcement today. I would like to remind the government that the opposition remains ready to help. As a party, we have already launched an initiative to provide food care packages in communities throughout the country. And I want to thank the Ministry of Finance and the government for allowing us to bring in those food items duty free. And we appreciate that, because that was your contribution to our work. And we thank you. All right. We are planning. We are prepared to help. We are planning to do more. Yeah. that helped you. That helped you. We are all in this crisis together, and the opposition is prepared to provide assistance and expertise to the government in whatever way we can. This is a time for collaboration. The more heads we put together, the more viable solutions we will develop. We must recognize that our true strength emerges when we are working together towards a common goal. We are still at the beginning of what is sure to be a very challenging time. I am so proud of how Bahamians are digging deep and pushing forward. I know that we will not only beat the situation, I know that, but we will work together to rise new heights. The solidarity, yes, I was there, but we could be home. Huh? Yeah, I'll wear that. Yeah. I'll wear my colors tomorrow. And as I said, Mr. Speaker, you know, I close with the second verse of through all the changing scenes of life. I speak about it. Was of his delivery I will boast. In all that are distressed from my example, comfort them and charm their feet to rest. Our example is what our people who are in distress need to give them comfort. And I invite us all to consider what we can do to help our people. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member.